Everyone's sticking with it. It's very impressive. It's been a very long day. So there's good news and bad news. Good news is I'm the last presentation, and I'm the shortest presentation. And bad news is I haven't written a book, so I don't have a book to publish or promote. So there you go. So my name's Paul Way, as you can see on the big screen. I'm the RVP for our Channel Alliance business at ThoughtSpot for Europe. So I work across all of our partners, alliances, and every indirect route to market that we have. So lovely to see you all, and thank you for sticking with the agenda today. So we've had various different conversations today about the revolution that we're seeing, about the technology shifts that we're seeing in the marketplace, and how we view the market at the moment is we talk about the fifth wave of evolution of BI and analytics. So you could probably see, I think Christoph was mentioning and some other people remembering the days of Cognos in wave one. We're very happily just kind of leaving wave 4, and I did put a cross through it because it said modern data stack, just for Joe, but he's not here, so that didn't work. But anyway, so where we see ourselves now is really on this fifth wave, talking about generative AI and the application of generative AI across data and analytics and the data space. So we've got things like ThoughtSpot Sage that we announced over a year ago. I think I presented, my first Sage presentation was here last year, around how we're using generative AI technologies in and around the space for business value. And it's got to be demonstrable business value, right? Rather than just the use of technology. And then we're seeing in that period of time, this last 12 months, we're also seeing the likes of Tableau releasing Pulse, Microsoft Copilot, and all the other vendors bringing out some form of technology stack around the generative AI wave that's being created. So what we're also seeing in the market is 99% of global CEOs plan or are already making significant investments in Gen AI. So there's buckets of cash. There are people trying to make decisions, but they're putting money aside to do things around Gen AI, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing or how to do it or how to adopt it. So the kind of CEOs are putting budget aside and then putting the problem on the data team or the CIO or the CTO to go, right, we need Gen AI because it's the latest thing, and what are we going to do about it? So one thing that we look at ThoughtSpot is how we're bringing that to market now, and we were doing it a year ago as well. So that technology shift is all interesting, but what it's not necessarily looking after, as far as we look at in our marketplace and around analytics, is the kind of standard challenge that we're still seeing today. So that challenge is where we're seeing business people asking thousands of data questions every day. And they're not necessarily getting answers to those questions, and they're not getting answers to the questions quick enough to satisfy the demand. And I'll come on to a bit more of that demand and that mismatch in a minute. And then on the right-hand side, right hand, left hand for you, data teams keep spending most of their time just keeping up. So we've got data engineers, analysts, wasted talent on merely report writing to answer questions for the business. And what ThoughtSpot tries to do is we try to break that reliance on the business going to a data team to answer a question. So what you can see down here is no answers, no decision, no action, and the average user waiting 275 hours a year for insights. And then that wasted talent, those 30 to 40% of analyst time being spent on ad hoc requirements, rather than something more proactive in the business. So what if with Gen AI? So what if you could just ask your own question of the database and get an answer without having the reliance on the data team? So a little bit like that Jay was showing earlier on with some of the Snowflake technologies, of the ability for people to ask natural language questions and get an answer without utilizing a data team to do so. So where does ThoughtSpot fit into this? So ThoughtSpot's about an 11-year-old company. We were founded by, our founders came from Google, Bing, etc., and they always dealt with big data. So where we've come from is building our solution on massive amounts of data, and it's always been around the concept of search. And what's happened over the last year especially is that utilization of search in natural language. The market with Gen AI and that push has actually kind of come to where we were already, and we've been doing this for 11 years. So we look at how you can do that and how you can build this into your data stack and self-serve people better in the business. So what does that look like? You ask a question, the system answers it for you, you get an automatic response, and you, human in the loop, you can tell it if it's right or wrong. right? And then you can pinboard it, you can build your own reports, you can then drill down to the lowest level of data that's in the cloud data platform. So you're not limited by scale or size, and you can truly self-serve. So every time you get a report, usually you have another question. You should be able to answer that question yourself without going back to the data team. So that should save time in the business and benefit in the business. Okay? So how does that look from a Gen AI perspective and the fundamental acceleration we're seeing in the marketplace? So if we look at the development and modeling, so this is where Gen AI is applying itself into the technical people in the organization. The ability for them to code better, the ability for them to build better and build quicker. And then as it moves back into the business user, we see things like creation. So the ability for a business user to create their own story, their own dashboards, their own reporting based upon their questions and their own business function. And then discovery, so anomaly detection, using Gen AI technology to actually run through all of the data and find anomalies in your business without you having to ask the question yourself. And all that can be managed now on a mobile device. So you can set up your own KPIs, you can be going about your normal business, and you can be alerted to when there's anomalies in the business on your mobile and then take action without you having to spend time going looking for it. And then the last point here is that how you share that. So it's data storytelling. And it's integrating Gen AI into the actual frames, the frames of the data that you're working with, and being able to tell a story in there and to share those with other people. So from a ThoughtSpot perspective, why ThoughtSpot? Why do our customers work with us? These are the kind of main building blocks here. So it's the simplicity. It's searching your data like you search Google. So it's that simple user interface for anybody in the business to use. Triggers are always important when they are important. So we're talking about real-time alerts. I've mentioned it on the mobile device, being proactive with data and being proactive with insight. And then drill anywhere into granular details. So the ability, if you think about this whole revolution of centralizing data into Snowflake or Databricks or any other cloud data platform, if you're limited by your entry point that can only look at a little bit of data, then you're actually limiting the value you've created by centralizing all that data. So ThoughtSpot allows you to drill anywhere down to the lowest, most granular level of detail and data in your cloud data platform. And then finally here, it's the higher adoption and lower TCO. If you just think conceptually, allowing any business user to use something that anybody can do, whether you're a 2-year-old or a 92-year-old, which is pretty much interact with a device and search, you're going to get higher adoption. So you're going to get more people using data, more people interacting with data, and that's the whole point of centralizing data into a modern data platform environment in the first place. So how does Gen AI help me make money or save money? Good question. How and why do we buy? Any questions? Any answers? How do we buy? Why do we buy? Anybody got an answer? Audience interaction late in the day? I'm not moving until you get this, otherwise no beer. Come on in, why do people buy? Keeping up with the Joneses, solving business problems, a push from above, identified need, solving a business problem, yeah? Okay, so these are some of the reasons why people buy and how they buy, but how do you get to that decision? Because at the moment we're seeing, yeah, it's all Gen AI, go and buy something, but how are you going to justify that purchase? The one thing that we see more and more in ThoughtSpot is the use of business value assessments and business value consulting. So we have 2 frameworks here. We go from business value assessment, so looking at the line of business, what is the business problem and what is the value of solving that problem to the business? Because if you can't quantify the value, what's the point of using the technology? Okay, and then it's taking that from the assessment to actually the realization. So the BVR piece there is about looking after you've deployed, understanding what you've done and what the real value was to the organization to make sure you didn't just go and spend money on a technology project, but you're actually putting value back in the business. And as Chris and Matt said earlier on, this could be in many different ways. Value can be many different things to many different people, but there's got to be some demonstrable value to the business to spend money these days. And then our approach here is look at the business problem, we enable the full ecosystem, and then we focus on the value measurement. So whatever that means to the organization, how do we measure that value for them? And then customer benefits, improve business outcomes, data leaders can optimize ROI, and clear links to business impact. We're spending money because we're getting value back in the business. From all of our BVAs that we've done, this is some of the data here. So what we see is 65% is actually people costs. And that doesn't mean that you're taking people out of the business. It may mean, and more often than not, because of the demands on data from the business, using technology, you can remove the need to spend more money on a load more people to analyze data and give reporting back to the individuals in the business. So it's mainly a people problem. We see it also from a revenue perspective as well, but this is from all of our BVAs that we've done globally. These are the stats that we've come out with. And then looking at the kind of the data analytics efficiency gains, at the top here, you've got the normal sort of process flow, which is business users asking questions of data or wanting to, getting into some form of legacy analytics tool, and then the data analyst at the other end. And you can see at the top end, 90% answer questions in days or weeks is too long, and there's a high volume of data requests. And in the bottom area here, when you're allowing people to self-serve, that whole workload gets shortened, and that's where the efficiency gains are and the process gains are. So you can see we're going 90% answered questions immediately. So if the business can answer 90% of their questions, that's a huge backlog of work that doesn't have to be done by a data analyst, and people can be curious, ask questions, and move on. And then on the other side here, you're looking at key business users looking for answers for business questions. They can save like 30 to 90%, and then the analysts saving 30 to 70% of their time. Okay, and it's saving time to do more important things in the business rather than writing reports. So just some customer examples here. I'll kind of let you read through, but just some interesting ones. Somewhere like Chick-fil-A in the US. Obviously, when people look at technology, they often think about internal business cases and internal use cases. Chick-fil-A is actually an external use case. So this is where we embed ThoughtSpot into their application, and how they deal with all of their franchisees is with the application. So they've replaced over 1,000 reports and answered 90% of business questions instantly with ThoughtSpot. Okay. Another one more local, Just Eat in Europe, 80% increase in speed to analytic delivery. So again, they've got thousands of franchisees where they're looking at their supply chain and how they're delivering goods and services to their customers and analyzing that data in real time. And then summary. I told you it wouldn't be too long. So in summary, the business value consulting piece is where we see most people getting a lot of value because we're adopting a technology, but we've got to really demonstrate value back to the business. So our findings show the biggest cost driver in a 3 to 5 year TCO is the people cost. So again, it's not just a reduction in workforce, but it's actually reducing the need to spend money on people going forward to manage your business. And then the ThoughtSpot reduces people cost more than any other tool because of some of these points down here. So enabling more self-service for business users, reducing the volume of data requests coming to the BI team, reducing the creation of new dashboards and maintaining those dashboards for people as well going forward. So that's how we very briefly, look at the industry trends that are on at the moment, the fifth wave of generative AI and business analytics, and how that can be used and deployed now in businesses to demonstrate real value back to your organization. Okay? Thank you very much.